The little town of Plains, Georgia, led the nation today as we began 6 days of mourning, honoring, and celebrating Jimmy Carter, the 39th president of the United States. Carter, who died last Sunday at the age of 100, is lying in repose tonight at the Carter Center in Atlanta. The public will be paying respects until Tuesday. A state funeral will be held Thursday in Washington, and then he'll be buried later that day in Plains. Mark Strassmann reports on the farewell to Jimmy Carter, an emotional day without a doubt. Mark, good evening.
Good evening, Jerika. Here at the Carter Center, everyday Americans now have the chance to file past Jimmy Carter's casket. This 6-day American farewell began earlier today in Carter's hometown. To the people of Plains, he was Mr. Jimmy, not Mr. President. Jimmy Carter's presidential hearse motored past them this morning, past small-town landmarks, past the familiar faces of friends and neighbors who knew him best, lifelong residents like Josephine Thomas.
He never gave up on being nice to people because he was president of the United States. He was always just so sweet to everyone.
Carter's motorcade then stopped at his boyhood farm, now a National Historical Park. It's where he first learned to grow peanuts. And there, a bell tolled 39 times, saluting America's 39th president. As an only in America story, the one about the president from Plains was a doozy.
Would you place your left hand on the Bible and raise your right hand and repeat after me?
A one-term commander-in-chief, he rose politically from nowhere in 1976, lost his re-election to Ronald Reagan in 1980, then had a remarkable second act for decades as a globe-trotting humanitarian. Typically with him, his late wife Rosalind. They were married 77 years, a shared lifetime of service.
Every American has a right and a duty to help shape the future course of the United States.
People who knew him best agree. His twin superpowers and guardrails were faith and hope.
And that faith journey is the foundation of his life. And
Jason Carter, his grandson.
He believed and knew that he was going to a better place, and I think that set us at ease.
Jan Williams lives in Plains.
He has touched my life in so many ways.
She's saying goodbye now to a 50-year friendship.
I just want to go and stand by the casket for a few moments and just say out loud, probably, thank you, Mr. Jimmy.
This is the end of an era in Plains. Jimmy Carter was their friend, their neighbor, this small community's identity. And now this national farewell shifts to Atlanta, the first chance for everyday Americans to pay their respects. First stop, Georgia's state capitol building. Governor Brian Kemp greeted the Carter family. A moment of silence honored his service as the state's governor. Then Marines carried the casket into the Carter Presidential Center, also in Atlanta. He'll lie in repose through Tuesday morning. Chip Carter, one of his 4 children.
He was an amazing man, and he was held up and propped up and soothed by an amazing woman. And the two of them together changed the world.
After Atlanta, America's final salute shifts to Washington, D.C. Next Tuesday and Wednesday, Carter will lie in state in the Capitol Rotunda. On Thursday, a state funeral at the National Cathedral. President Biden will give one of the eulogies. President-elect Trump has said he'll attend.
We've seen that outpouring of support from all over the world and from all over the country. And he believed, I think, in his heart that he had a real personal relationship with the American people.
Jimmy Carter will be buried this Thursday in Plains. Jerika, buried true to who he was and where he came from.
And Mark, as you know, most Americans alive today were born after Jimmy Carter left the White House. So what do you think will likely happen in terms of how people will learn about him this week?
Well, I think one of the takeaways you're going to hear this week, Jerika, is that for Carter, the presidency as a personal achievement came second. It wasn't his career highlight. To him, all those years of doing good works after he left the White House, that's what he was most proud of.
Always about the people. Mark Strassmann, we thank you so much for your reporting.